Welcome into Mile High Territory. Ryan Spilborghs here, riding solo with you today. It's a day off for the Rockies on a Thursday, and a two-game dusting. That's what I call a sweep of two games. For me, it's like two games has to be a dusting. A three-game is a sweep. Four games is a mopping. So I look at a strange two-game series in San Diego as a dusting. Rockies did not play well in San Diego, which was a little bit frustrating. Go back to Tuesday night. Tuesday night was probably the worst game we've seen from the Rockies this year, with the errors, the strikeouts as far as the offense goes, in a game that they could have won. They literally could have won. And so, yeah, you look at a frustrating Tuesday. And then, of course, on Wednesday, the Rockies lose a day game 3-1 to a Padres team that's playing pretty good. They've won the last five. So we're getting closer and closer to trade deadline. And also this time for the Rockies coming after the All-Star break. Such a strange schedule because you had a day off on Monday. You have a day off today. This is coming after the All-Star break. There was a day off last week. So just kind of interesting to see how the schedule plays out and how the Rockies look at it, because for me, as we look around the entire league this season with the wild card spots, and it's not to say that we haven't had that in years past. We have the extra wild card spot has engaged more and more teams into the trade discussion. So trade deadline is Monday, August 3rd. And so the Rockies have a lot of interesting players, and we've been digging into the values of them. And today I thought it would be fun to dig into Hunter Goodman, because Ken Rosenthal, who does an amazing job, he writes on The Athletic. He has his show with Foul Territory, so happy to be in that same category with Ken, was talking about Hunter Goodman today and how the Rockies have basically set the bar of what they're going to take in return to make a trade. And they're asking for the number one prospect in whatever organization you're trading with. And the teams that have expressed interest, according to Ken Rosenthal: Tampa Bay Rays, that makes some sense. The Boston Red Sox, that makes some sense too, especially when you think about their backstop. It's Narvaez and Connor Wong. Connor Wong was like a focal point of the Mookie Betts deal. That deal is still an all-time disaster for the Boston Red Sox. That goes like side by side with Babe Ruth getting traded to the Yankees for some money so that they could do that Broadway show back in the day. That's how bad of a deal the Mookie Betts deal was for the Red Sox, because they traded somebody in Mookie who was headed into free agency. They obviously tried to get him to sign long-term. They didn't find an agreement there, so he became expendable. Well, in the case of Hunter Goodman, this is a little bit different. Not arbitration eligible. So one of the things I always point out when it comes to players is you have to understand the value of the player. The value of Hunter Goodman: you have a 30 home run catcher, which is not easy to find. There's only a handful of them. Cal Raleigh, Shea Langoliers, maybe Dylan Dingler this year. But I mean, the list is really small. And he's going to break his own home run record, single season home run record with the Rockies this year. That's going to happen. He's also on pace to get to over 40, which could happen very easily. I mean, I could see him at 45 when it's all said and done. He also has the reverse splits. He's not raking at Coors Field. He rakes on the road. So, for a lot of teams that are looking at Hunter Goodman and they're wondering, hey, is this guy going to be good for us? We'll get into some of the defensive question marks, because that certainly has been out there around Major League Baseball. But let's get into the home road splits for a second, because it's always worth talking about. At home, he's hitting .233. We've seen a pretty big jump in the last couple weeks. So an OPS now at .816, 13 home runs at Coors. That's pretty good. But on the road, he's hitting .273. So 40 points higher for Hunter Goodman on the road. It is a 30% higher. It's 30 points higher in on base percentage. It's 80 points higher in slugging percentage. It's a .922 OPS on the road. That's a huge number. huge. And so when you combine them, if I'm a team looking at Hunter from an offensive standpoint, hell yeah, I want right hand power. Now, when you start adding the control, now it makes this a lot more complicated. So for Hunter Goodman, he is not arbitration eligible till next year. So it'll be a first year ARB hearing. You also have 3 years of control for Hunter Goodman after the season. It's also worth noting in the case of Hunter, I'm not worried about it, but most of the time, a lot of players don't even get to the third year of arbitration. So if you're looking at the years of control, some players never even get to year 3 ARB because as you're going up through the arbitration progress, if you have a bad year in there, let's say it's the second year of arbitration, that third year is going to be a bump. And if you're not performing at a high level, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So we could say he has 3 years of control. I believe wholeheartedly in Hunter Goodman and his ability to continue to be a valuable player. He's only 26. So I'm not worried about the 30 year of arbitration, him not getting there. He'll get there. And I think he'll be worth it. But 3 years of control means a cost. And that cost should be substantial. Overall, for the Rockies, they're not in a position where you really need Hunter Goodman right now because he's not you're not a postseason team. Will they be a postseason team next year? Perhaps, but it's going to take a lot of work. Even as we're watching this Rockies team who are one win away from going past where they were a season ago, you still need to make up 20 games. As far as win-loss record, you have to be at least 500, if not above that, by 4 or 5 games. So that's a substantial turnaround from this year, even the next year. That seems a little bit far-fetched. So let's play this one out. Let's say the Rockies decide we're going to hang on to Hunter Goodman. They might have a prospect package where maybe they were offered a top prospect. They turn it down. You head into next year. So now he's earning some real money. And the Rockies are getting closer. You're going to have the same conversation a year from now. So Hunter Goodman a year from now is going to get another trade, be part of the trade discussion, depending on where the Rockies are at. If they have a huge turnaround, you'd love Hunter Goodman to be a part of it. But if you don't see this opportunity to win in the next 2 years, Hunter Goodman for me is expendable. And not because I want to move on from Hunter Goodman, but because the reality is, unless you sign him to a long-term contract, which could be in the air, I don't know this. If they wanted to sign a pre-arbitration deal with Hunter Goodman, call it 5-6 years, then Hunter Goodman becomes your catcher for the future and no questions asked, and it's done. I don't think the Rockies are in that position to do that. They might be. Hunter Goodman might be interested. Most position players always want to get a deal done because then he can take a lot of that pressure off. So he's in an awkward spot. Today on a Thursday day off, if there is more discussion about trades, if I'm the agent, I'm asking the Rockies, are you interested in a long-term extension? That's natural. Because if you go and the Rockies said, yeah, we want to do a 5-year deal and we want to pay him $100 million, now that becomes a financial decision for him and his wife. And that would be really difficult to turn down. At the same time, if you go through arbitration, let's say he hits 45 home runs this year, next year he's another 30 home run, the year after that, every year in arbitration, he's going to keep getting bumps. And that contract might actually be, if you get a long-term deal, will actually be below market, which is the risk you take if you're a position player. So we'll see what ends up happening here.
Big second half of the season coming up. There might be a hot ticket, a rivalry series, a sold-out experience that you need to get your hands on. And SeatGeek is the spot for that. You can find good pricing. They help you with the pricing. Green dot, good. Red dot, not as good. And they help you with your view of the seat for some big matchups coming up in August, September, and eventually leading up to playoffs.
Why would you not use SeatGeek? If you want to view from your seat, you want to know if it's a good seat, if it's a good deal, it has all of it on the app. It's easy to use. It's one click, boom. You buy the tickets, they send them right to you. You get them on the app, And then you can go check out whatever game, whatever you're a fan of, you can go to, whether it's baseball, whether it's concerts, whatever you're into, you can find a ticket, and you can always try to find the green dot on SeatGeek.
And for MLB tickets, you can get 10% off with that promo code we're running all season long, Territory10. That's Territory10 off your next set of MLB tickets at SeatGeek. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later.
Now, for the rest of Major League Baseball, here's where it gets even more complicated for the Rockies and the catcher's position. The catcher's position is one of the toughest positions in baseball. It's one of the most grueling position. There's the most on the plate there, essentially baseball's quarterback. And with Hunter Goodman, if you have concerns about his receiving skills, and some of the numbers are fair, some are unfair. He's a -2 on Baseball Savant on fielding run value. Don't care about that. Part of that has to do with base runners and stolen bases. He's excellent when it comes to ABS challenges. I think that's important to note. He's over 65%, which is really good. But the blocks above average, he's below league average there. Framing metrics, he's in the negative there. Again, your framing metrics are also a byproduct of who's pitching to you. If you're in a staff that's dotting and throwing pitches exactly where you want, well, guess what? Framing metrics are going to be pretty damn good. If Hunter Goodman is catching Tarek Skubal, his framing numbers are going to be good. So again, like, take into consideration some of the stats, think about them, and then you come to a spot where, look, I watch Hunter Goodman all the time. I think he is an average catcher to, there's a lot of wiggle room because he's only been doing it for a little bit of time. He's not a finished product as a catcher. And most catchers in their mid-20s aren't. They get better in their 30s. It's just what happens. They learn the game, like the technique of catching becomes better and better. So, and it's not a negative thing to say he's average to right in there, because it's true. It's not false. That is 100% accurate. The bat is elite. And so across the board, when you start thinking about catchers that might be available to teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, like the Boston Red Sox, the pickings are slim. Ryan Jeffers, who's with the Minnesota Twins, is the most likely guy to get traded. However, their general manager, Jeremy Zoll, said, no, we're buying. We're buying. Today, the Twins had a crazy walk-off. They were down 3-0 in the bottom of the ninth inning and hit a grand slam. They are buying, which, unless they get blown away for Ryan Jeffers, Jeffers stays. So that's one off the board. Then you think about a guy like Adley Rutschman. Adley Rutschman with the Baltimore Orioles. He's highly well-regarded. They have not signed him to a long-term deal. They signed Moises Ballesteros to a long-term contract. He's a big, huge, young catcher, but his receiving skills are still being fixed. They're being worked on. So Adley becomes the most desirable catcher if you're not moving Hunter Goodman, because Adley's catching abilities are evident. He's a switch hitter. And for the Orioles, they also have a backup plan. Rockies somewhat have a backup plan if they lose for Hunter Goodman, but doesn't matter because we're talking short term here. It'd be a combination of Braxton Fulford, Brett Sullivan. You lose Hunter Goodman's bat, it really stinks. This team, though, can find pitching. And if they do get pitching, the teams that have it are the Tampa Bay Rays, New York Yankees, teams that I feel like Paul DePodesta and Josh Burns have relationships with. And that's why they're setting this bar super high. They've worked with these people. They understand Hunter Goodman's value based on the market, based on how limited availability you have for a catcher. So it makes this trade deadline really fascinating, because what I think comes out of it is either an extension talk that lands Hunter Goodman a multi-year extension with the Colorado Rockies, or it leads to the trade, which I think would shock a lot of people around baseball. And I think that's good. Overall, I mean, what we've seen so far from Paul DePodesta and Josh Burns is that they are willing to talk to everybody. And as I look around the league and start thinking about the teams that have tradable pieces, it's not as many teams as you think. Right now, currently, today, August or July, whatever, the 30th, there are 21 teams within 3 games of a postseason spot. 21 teams. So who in the world are the buyers? Who are the sellers? And for some of these teams out there, like Detroit, who should be selling away Tarek Skubal, does that mean they're young players too? And the answer to that is no. So very few teams have a catcher. Very few teams are completely out of it. And the price for Hunter Goodman, as ridiculous as it sounds, as you're looking at some of the names that have been tossed out there, are not unreasonable. I think Paul and Josh are well within reason to ask for the number 1 prospect in an organization for a catcher like Hunter, who has pop, who you might have question marks on his defensive abilities, who's going to go to a brand new ballpark. He does have swing and miss, but there's not a lot of other options out there. So the catcher's market is scarce. And because of that, it makes it the perfect time. If you were to move on from Hunter Goodman, it's probably this week. It probably would be this week, which I don't think I would find myself saying that at the beginning of the year. I felt like Hunter at this point, because it's really hard to find that type of power, you would have to be blown away for a deal to make this move. I think the Rockies might actually get blown away. Yeah. I think for Hunter Goodman, and when you add a 30 home run power bat, probably fills in really nice in somebody's 5th or 6th spot in the lineup with that power, and then just manages the rotation. I think he's worth it. I think he would command a return that the Rockies would be hard pressed to say no. It would be hard pressed to say no. The other guys I want to get into, some of the bullpen guys for the Rockies, especially since, this is the most important part for the Rockies season is bullpen and a couple starters. So Kyle Freeland, we've talked about this. I don't know what teams are interested. I know with Sugano, it's a low cost option. He's a free agent after this year. Rockies have no ties specific to Sugano. He probably makes some sense for some teams like the Padres, who's looking for an extra starter. I think in the case of Lorenzen, he's done enough in the last couple starts where there's probably a little bit of interest here, but probably not a lot, just based on the contract. The obvious ones from the free agent standpoint for the Rockies in the back end of the bullpen is that Jimmy Herget, who's really struggled. Senzatella has been in a nice spot over the course of the year, struggled of late. I don't know what the value is, if it's starting to decrease or if it's still the same. And then, of course, you got Brendan Bernardino, the Rockies' only left-handed reliever. He's been on a heater. He's been amazing. I think there's several teams that are going to be interested in Brendan Bernardino. Of those guys, it feels like probably Bernardino is the most likely to get moved. I think the least likely is a Kyle Freeland. I think somewhere where there's some question marks, it's probably going to be Senzatella and Sugano. So overall, I think if the Rockies are making some deals this week, we might see 3 or 4 deals that are somewhat small, with respect to the player. The big move is going to be Hunter Goodman. And I don't know if it happens. I'd be shocked if it happens, but I also would not be shocked if it happens. The catcher spot is, when you think about postseason teams, it is hard to find a bad catcher on a good team. And so for Tampa and for the Yankees, and Austin Wells has really struggled for the Yankees, are the New York Yankees or any of these teams a better team with Hunter Goodman? The answer is yes. Would it be worth it for these teams like the Yankees and the Rays and the Red Sox, who are trying to win a division, take down the American League? Does it make sense to add a power hitting catcher? Answer is yes, with years of control. And again, we come to the same spot. It is a high cost for acquisition. There's not a lot of teams that are in that spot with the catcher that they have a good catcher that feel like you can move on from him. Baltimore and the Rockies are probably your best bets. That's probably where you're at, unless you're getting a veteran backstop, a guy like Jonah Heim, somebody that has some pedigree as far as he's been on a World Series team. He's won a Gold Glove. You can go for that lower level of the market where you're not, giving up an arm and a leg for it, but you're not getting the bat that you want. And most likely he's not catching a ton for you down the stretch. Maybe some games in the postseason, but he's not your go-to guy. So tell me what you think. We love getting your responses. You can follow me at SpillyGoat19. And as we get closer and closer, we'll continue to break down the possibilities, the rumors we're hearing. But I felt like today was a great day to address Hunter Goodman and why it would be so difficult to move him. But the reality, too, is that there's a lot of parts here that make a lot of sense for why Hunter, if they get the right deal, will get moved. So there you go.